Welcome to the Dance NYC 2022 Symposium, Life Cycles, Livelihoods, Legacies. We will be with you shortly. Today's schedule. This morning, we gathered for a welcome and wake up, 10 o'clock sessions, and an 11:30 dance break presented by Kumbe Center for African and Diaspora Dance. We will now begin our 12 o'clock early afternoon sessions, followed by a nourishing lunch at 1:30. At this time, you may also explore our exhibitor hall, where we will host the Virtual Expo Showcase. At 2:30, we will begin our late afternoon sessions, followed by a 4:15 Community Daily Debrief, where all attendees are encouraged to attend and discuss the day's activities. At 5 o'clock, head over to our exhibitor hall again to explore our second Virtual Expo Showcase of the day. And at 6 o'clock, we will present our keynote presentation. Accessibility. ASL interpretation and live captioning will be provided for today's session. A stream-to-text link will be posted in the chat and participation guide for access to the live transcription. Stay connected with us by posting your takeaways on social media using the hashtags DanceSymp, DanceNYC 2022, and DanceSymp2022. On Instagram at dance.nyc, on Twitter at dance.nyc, and on Facebook at dance/NYC. Community guidelines. Based on Dance NYC's values of justice, equity, and inclusion, we agree to share our opinions, challenge perspectives, and engage or debate respectfully, and acknowledge and course correct if harm is caused. Honor everyone's personhood and humanity. Not tolerate speech that is disparaging, abusive, violent, or that is intended to defame someone's character publicly. Some features not to miss. Build your agenda of sessions. Connect with other attendees. Join community conversations. Visit the exhibitor hall. Don't forget to check out the 2022 Symposium Digital Program Book. We are happy to be in community with you. Thanks for joining.
Good afternoon, happy Friday, everyone. My name is Kyle Rudnick. I am the operations manager at Dance NYC. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I identify as a white cisgender male of German and Puerto Rican descent. I am wearing a blue and gray patterned blazer with a maroon color sweater, black framed glasses, light brown hair, and I am sitting behind a white wall with 2 pieces of artwork. I identify as someone with dyslexia and auditory processing disorder, and today I am calling in from the land of the Lenape, Mannahatta, currently known as Manhattan. First, I'd like to thank you for joining for a completely digital 2022 symposium held on Whova platform. As we are naturally at the mercy of technology, we want to remind you that there may be some delays, some sound issues, and changing circumstances that may occur during our time together. We invite you to extend us and each other grace and patience. Second, ASL interpreters from SignNexus and closed captioning services provided by the Viscardi Center will be available throughout the session. A stream to text link will also be available and posted in the chat for further reference. We will also post speaker information in the description below and under the speakers module on the left side of your Whova web app or the menu of your Whova mobile app. This information is also available on our website. Third, feel free to post comments you want to share with the community in the chat section to the right of this event room. Dance NYC moderators will be interacting with you there. For this session, the panelists have decided not to hold a Q&A to ensure a presence of mind and ease in the conversation. However, please feel free to post your comments and reflections in the chat for the community's benefit. After the session ends, there will be a session follow-up in the community section of Whova where you can continue the conversation. Lastly, we hope you will help us amplify these conversations. Repost, tag us, and share your takeaways on Twitter, which is @DanceNYC. You can visit our Instagram @.nyc and or visit our Facebook at dance/NYC. Additionally, you can also use the hashtag DanceSimp, SYMP for simp. And now we enter the generations of artists paving our own path. Moving beyond the labels of emerging, mid-career, and or established, this session investigates artists' trajectories based on their own definitions. In a series of paired discussions, dance artists in similar age brackets across varying practices unpack where they are in their career and the assets, challenges, and opportunities present for them at their current phase. Curated with X. Now, welcoming our moderator, interdisciplinary artist and advocate and member of the Dance NYC Junior Committee, Maya Simone Z.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello. I'm so grateful and glad to be here. My name is Maya Simone. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm going to acknowledge that my eyes might be shifting and looking at multiple things. I'm currently on Monsignor Bay land, otherwise known as Brooklyn, and I am a Black queer person sitting in a Black office chair in a well-lit room, wearing a yellow gold headscarf, and sitting in front of a wooden panel that's sitting behind me. I will be leading some really great conversations with some really great artists. I'm very excited and I want to jump right in. So our first pair will be Sarah Chen and Carmen Caceres. So I'll ask them to come on in. Hello. I'm very excited for you all to be able to chat some, and I'm gonna go ahead and get us started with a first thought or question. And before we actually dive in, I wanna note that you two know each other real well. So I'm really glad that I get to just be here while you two chat and share some things about yourselves and your careers. So my first question, you've both done some independent and DIY art and a lot of self-producing of your own work. So would you share what it's been like to have to be resourceful in carving your own path forward as artists living and working here and in other places?
Hi, Maya. Hi, Sarah. Hi, everybody. I'm Carmen Caceres. My preferred pronouns are she, hers. And I'm a white woman, Latin, from Argentina. I'm I'm sitting in a white bedroom. I have a little picture in the back of a dog and my bed, and I'm speaking from the land of the Lenape peoples in Manhattan. Yeah, I'll pass it on to Sarah.
Great. Hello, everybody. I'm Sarah Chen. I am, let's see, a mixed race woman with short curly hair and freshly shaved sides, sitting in a white walled room with little calla lilies from the farmer's market beside me. Pronouns are she, her, and I'm also on the Munsee Lenape land, otherwise known as Brooklyn.
Thank you both. I got so excited I went ahead and asked the first question, but I'm going to say it again. So the both of you know each other quite well, and you both have done a lot of independent work and a lot of self-producing of your own work. Would you share what it's like to be resourceful as you carve your own paths forward in your careers as artists?
Where to start? Yeah, I mean, Carmen and I, we were talking, we've known each other since we were both kind of students of dance in New York, and our careers have been kind of interweaving throughout the years. And I think both of us have found a lot of kind of necessity and also empowerment in self-production. That's what I always say. It's like kind of a push and pull of, well, you don't find yourself represented or you don't find the opportunities you want, and so you have to do things yourself. But also when you do things yourself, they're more personal and specific and amazing and involve the things that you care about most. So for me, that's been my most of my career. I danced in dance, small dance companies for maybe the first, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years of my, professional career in New York, starting right when I was still in college. And then the things most people know about me is I built my own dance floor on the rooftop of my house, of my apartment, and it became a studio and a performance space. And of course, you can see that's a great example of like the spaces at a premium in New York City. And so I literally built my own, learned how to do some basic carpentry with plywood. And then that became a community space where I produced beautiful events that focused on improvisation, an event called Spontaneous Combustion. And that grew out of, I wanted to do improvisation as performance. I didn't see a lot of space in curation for that. A lot of curation is, focused on kind of product. So people want to buy set work. And so using what I had, a space that I built, to make a space for a community that I wanted to see flourish. It's just like one little example of that.
That's amazing, Sarah, and I am really excited to be part of this, and sharing also like this other side of the story, that it's been great. Like as Sarah said, we have been meeting in different points. And we have so many things in common, and at the same time, it's so like our stories are different in so many ways. On my end, I come from another country, and I moved here when I was in my early 20s. And so I think it was a constant battle to, find my spaces, find my communities. I actually landed in New York and went directly to the Cunningham School that was at the time open, where the Martha Graham studio is right now. And I experienced like firsthand how that community was like kind of shutting down and ending because of the foundation was finishing. And so that was a very important moment in my life, because that's the reason why I was able to stay here in New York as an immigrant. And so I had to kind of find ways to make that happen, stay here, make my work here. I found this city an amazing space of opportunities, also with a lot of work behind it, but nevertheless, I really wanted to stick that. and then, you know, searching for these right places, these right communities for me, where I can develop my own voice, where I can find my space to be creative. That's how I met Sarah. And we constantly had these like meetings, you know, through the years where we had check-ins. It's like, what are you doing right now? What's happening? You know, and we would share our, you know, our successes, but also our frustrations with the dance world, that, you know, it's a world that it's yet not even close to the place that we want it to be in terms of opportunities, in terms of resources. You know, it feels like a lot of times we have to, you know, just like protect ourselves, and that really doesn't allow us to build a strong community. So these platforms, I feel like they're making an amazing effort to change that, and I'm, you know, I'm very glad about this. But one of the things I guess I really found with Sarah through these years is like how we would envision something, you know, we want this to happen. And at the same time, we were like so frustrated. This is not happening. We're not getting what we want to do, or, you know, this opportunity or the other. And then the years would pass, and like somehow we found creative ways to make it happen. So we never saw those obstacles as challenges that we couldn't overcome, but the opposite, as opportunities to, you know, grow and be creative. And I think that really define our careers and our paths. You know, like seeing these limitations as opportunities for growth and creativity. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I'm really glad you brought up, like, it's definitely, I think one of the joys of our friendship is both the good and the bad, that we can spend time together talking about all the things that aren't going right, the grants we applied to that we didn't get, and the, you know, the teachers we see that aren't, you know, maybe supporting us the way we want, whatever it was over the years, and also really celebrate each other as, you know, you've started your own, you know, you've had your company, and I've done my solo work, and I just think that's amazing.
That's an interesting point, like Sarah just brought, that one of the issues that we found is how, you know, we both want to create an ecosystem in the dance world, or we want to be part of an ecosystem that really supports the artists in many levels, and one of them is financially. That is like the biggest struggle, perhaps. And, you know, so through that struggle of like, how do we do to fund our projects? How do we do to pay the artists? And Sarah found so much joy in building an amazing solo work, and, you know, this led her to the dance floor, that is like an, you know, like an amazing resource that she shared with me, and then I came up with the opportunity to do the same thing. So I actually built a dance floor using her book, and started doing also performances in my roof here in Manhattan in an apartment. So and, you know, on my end with my company, instead of doing solo work, I decided to find ways to compensate the artist. But this came at a very high cost at the beginning. It meant using my own money from my own pocket. And so I ended up with a big debt. And so that pushed me to learn how to do this in a sustainable way. And, you know, that's where I'm right now, trying to find best ways of fundraising, you know, applying to grants constantly. And, you know, some of that is like really working out. But it's obviously a constant work that you have to keep doing. Yep.
Actually, I think I will let Maya get a word in edgewise soon. But I was going to say, I think another theme of like the resourcefulness is, if we look back at our paths, we actually share the things we learn as we learn them. So like fundraising, I don't know how to do it. I'm very bad at that. I chose to scale my work to a really small kind of human scale so that I didn't have to be responsible for so much of that. But the only time I did real fundraising, when I had a solo show that was touring, I ran a Kickstarter, and I showed up at your apartment so that you could help me film the Kickstarter video, because I didn't know how to do those things, you know. And then, like you said, I built a space, you loved what I was doing, and then, you know, I wrote a book on how to build a dance floor, and you're the person who took that and ran with it, and now there's another dance floor in New York City on a roof. So I think that's another thread, is like, when, you know, we're kind of scrabbling through and learning lessons as we go, and then we've been able to share those with each other, partly because we have shared interests, but also I think with the wider dance community as we go and kind of share what we managed to learn.
Thank you both for all of the, it's also just wonderful to see in this conversation how you two have built a relationship over the course of time working together, and connecting with each other and community to sort of like lean on other people. And I just want to note that I know that that's something when I talk to a lot of artists, especially with other artists in the junior community, for example, and others, there's been, especially in the last few years, the sense of not knowing how to connect with other people, and the sense of isolation that oftentimes is one of the harder parts of trying to work in a city that you might not know how to navigate yet. So it's really interesting to just hear both of your experiences and how you've connected with each other and supported each other. It's really wonderful to hear. So I want to just actually jump to another question I think is very connected about all of your varied interests, because you both seem to have many things that you are interested in that are not solely dance and solely about performance and solely about being on a stage. It's also like building your own stage so that people can come to your roof is not something that I think I would have expected I would be interested in when I first came to New York City. And now I'm here like wanting to get Sarah's book, right? So I think it's very interesting to hear about interests that you both have other than dance. I know Sarah is farming and gardening, and Carmen, running a company requires a lot more skills that I would love to hear you talk about. Yeah, anything that you both would like to share about that?
Well, so on my end, I've been kind of like parallel to my dance career. I always had this very strong interest in education. And at first, I became a teaching artist in Argentina. And then when I moved here, I continue with that practice. I also been always really interested in archiving, and you know, I'm good with numbers and stuff like that. So, in organization skills in general. So my most recent position is for a nonprofit organization as the associate director of the education department. And I guess this is an amazing place where I get to kind of mix all these like information together, all these like skills that I got from the dance world, from my interest in archiving, from my interest in education, and you know, also working with a nonprofit organization, which is kind of my ultimate goal with my company. At this stage, we're not yet there, but I'm hoping to eventually turn it into a nonprofit model. So I think this is a great opportunity to learn how this type of organization operates, and then transfer all that into my own organization. And I would say that it's interesting because on one hand, you know, I grew up in the dance world thinking like, if you want to become a dancer, that's all you have to do. You can't focus on anything else. And I learned through time, and I think this is something that we share with Sarah, is that it's actually not the same pattern for everybody. And for us, it's been about kind of our holistic approach, our combining the different interests we have and how that enrich our artistic practices, and instead of like making it less strong in a way. So yeah, I feel like it's been a very interesting journey to discover how our diverse interests, you know, enrich our practice.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to the like I used to have this T-shirt when I was like, I don't know, in middle school that said 100% dancer. And I thought like, this is like, I have to get to that where my life is only dance. This was when I was studying ballet, of course. And it has never been the case for me. It's again, that push and pull. I didn't have a family that was very supportive of a dance career. So I knew I sort of had to prove myself, and there wasn't going to be family money to support it. And so right out of college, I've always had another job. And in my case, I think different to some dancers, although there's more of us than I originally thought. I've always worked outside the dance field for my kind of money job, day job, whatever you want to call it. And for many years, I think about 10 years, I worked in technology as a UX researcher, which is like applied anthropology for the development of software. Really kind of long story of how I fell into that. But then, and I used to joke that like, that was like, I never got any, funding or grants. So that was like Sarah Chen grant organization granting Sarah Chen dancer, just taking my corporate job money and putting it, that's how you could pay $600 to buy wood to build a dance floor. And then in the pandemic, like many people, I had a big kind of value shift. And, the whole idea of that corporate day job was work the job to pay to the dance career. And then there was no dance career because pandemic paused everything. And I really had been, I've been wanting to quit for a while, but I hadn't found the way out. And I was gardening and then I was gardening more and more and more until now. It's really a funny moment that we're having this conversation because I am moving tomorrow to Long Island for the season to be a farmer. And so I've been studying farming for the past year and a half. And I am constantly on that search for maybe integration, and that kind of like, people always are asking me like, oh, how does technology or sociology inform dance? And I was like, they're kind of separate. But I'm hoping this time around, plants feel much more integrated and like Carmen was saying, holistic. And I'm really looking for those connections in this next version of life structure. But yeah.
I do want to say that in the last performance I had at my roof, my series is called Lo de Carmen because it mixes improvisation and Argentine tango together. And so we do performances and then a little workshop. And Sarah performed at this last session in September last year. And her piece was actually very interesting connection between her experience and knowledge in plants and gardening and dance. So I think, Sarah, you're like nailing that.
Hopefully. I think that balancing act of how to maintain a practice while you have to do other things, and also you want to do other things. I mean, this has been, for me, I've never had even though I say, oh, technology was my day job, I chose something that I was, interested in. It involved working with people and advocating for customers in that case, but it was interesting. It was never like a total throwaway job. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I lost it. I guess just like, yeah, doing things outside of dance and trying to, find the way through. And I just wanted to also say, finding the balance. That's what we were talking about. I mean, I also wanted to shout you out, Carmen, because I remember you went back to school, like for an American degree during this time that you were also running a dance company.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another chapter. Yeah, I feel like I guess as an immigrant and this being my second language, I felt like I really needed that education to feel confident, and those skills. I feel like every time I'm sitting down and writing a grant, it's like my classes in college about writing again is like coming back again. So I know that we are close to the time, so I want to know if Maya, do you have any other questions for us?
I do think that all of my questions would be a whole nother panel session, right? So, I want to just say thank you to both of you, and I just want to sort of make some very quick connections because you said a lot of really interesting things, and you both have a lot of interesting things that you're going to do in like your next chapter. Knowing that we're, especially right now, at a time where a lot of people are choosing to either, not just two choices, but people are choosing in a lot of different ways to chart a path forward after either starting a new chapter or trying to pick one up again. So thank you for sharing all the things that you're doing. I think that there are likely things going on in the chat that I cannot see for people who are watching in terms of, like, if you have questions, like, how do I get Sarah's book? Like, how do I learn more about Carmen's work? How do I, all of these questions. I believe there will be ways to connect more after this. And I'm so grateful to both of you. Thank you for all the things you said.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you,
Yeah,
Sarah.
thank you. Thank you, Maya. And also thank you to Candace for curating this platform.
Yes.
I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Big up to Candace. Big up to Candace for all the wonderful people who are in the room and the rest of the Dance NYC team. Okay, so with that, I will call into the room our next two people. Thank you both. Our next pair will be Mike Esperanza and Adia Whitaker. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Peace. Good afternoon.
Thank you both for being here. Very excited for continued conversation. So I will now mute myself and ask you both to share who you are and where you are.
Do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Oh, okay. My name is Mike Esperanza. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm currently in Medford, Massachusetts, a suburb of Boston, which Maya went to school, I believe, right? Yeah. The native land of Pawtucket. And I am a dark-skinned male of Filipino descent with a bald head, light eyebrows, and a beard. I am wearing a black shirt with black suspenders, sitting in front of a gray background with white curtains.
Okay. I'm going to just stay to the script because I'm kind of a talker. Okay, so my name is Adia Whitaker. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a non-disabled, honey-complected Black woman. I have on an evergreen colored shirt, a yellow, gold, orange, and green dangling beaded necklace. My head is shaved on the sides, and I have cornrow, two-strand twist, curly brown, dark brown, Afro kinky side swoop, like that type of thing going on. I'm also wearing glasses. I'm sitting in front of a yellow wall with a colorful painting hanging on it and some West African cloth hanging from the door. I'm greeting you today from Lenape-Hoking, Crown Heights, Brooklyn, the stolen land of past, present, and future generations of the Munsee Lenape people. And although I renounce the theater that Indigenous land acknowledgements can often become, I also understand that the most comprehensive understanding of embodied cultural traditions can come from performing them on stage. May our performance of land acknowledgements today move into embodied cultural practices of gratitude and reparation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both. Okay, so I am excited for all of our conversations today. The both of you, I want to just launch right in. I'm very interested in both of your careers. I think you both have had very interesting, like from what I've been able to learn about you and from the conversation we've had thus far, you both have had exciting and interesting paths in your work. So I actually want to start there. Mike, working in graphic design and photography, and you shared that worked with those mediums helped you sustain a career in with choreography and with dance. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and Adia, we chatted, and we learned that we're actually cousins, because I've been able to, I've been able to support your work in largely virtual ways, working spreadsheet magic in the background kind of things, and I know that you also have had a complex relationship, to say the least, with the dance field at large, and you're navigating through it, and you've just found a way to make it work. And both of you have people who you work with to make that all worth it and possible. So if you could share what that feels like for you now, and how you're navigating that.
I'm originally from California, so I went to school in Cal State Fullerton, where I got my degree in graphic design. And so I kind of fell into the dance world afterwards, and just loved and was so interested in its aesthetics and its just incorporation of design and movement in the body. And so I started a company back in California, and then moved it to New York 10 years ago. So crazy. It's been 10 years since I've been in New York. And we've been fortunate enough to sustain ourselves through residencies and commissions. I've worked a lot with American College Dance Festival, where I've met a lot of, colleagues through different schools in the West Coast and also in the East Coast. And so we've had the opportunity to bring the company to their school and perform, or if I myself am creating a work for the students, I get to share that moment with them. But essentially incorporating photography and design has really helped me kind of solidify myself by taking myself away from one thing to the other. That way I find myself arriving in an open, kind of fresh eye, or even open heart. That way I can really digest myself into the work, having that time away from it. So I've been fortunate enough to sustain myself as an artist to film and video, and even freelance as a graphic designer here and there. And so that has really helped me kind of keep myself moving forward, going into my late 40s into my early 50s. And so it's been crazy ride so far. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah.
I'm 45 years old. I came to New York when I was 24 years old as a student at the ALE school. And I thought I was going to stay here for 5 years, then go back. I'm from the Bay Area. That's why I had to throw up the little W to you, because I'm from San Francisco, California. And so I thought I was going back to the Bay to make work after living here for 5 years. Maybe I would get a little company, something, but now it's been almost 22 years. And the best way I can describe it is that I've just died so many times in this dance world. And I think that I've learned when the death is coming and when the rebirth is coming. And so either it's I've been murdered, or I just had to jump into the fire. There's been so many times that I've died. And I think that as I've come to this age and this place in my work, I think that I feel it coming. I'm okay, it's almost time to die, or I have a little while, I have some time before I have to die again. So let me enjoy this. Right. And so I've been so many people. It's so interesting to listen to Sarah and listen to Carmen, because I'm I remember when I was trying to go so hard with the grants, and I believed in it, and the value, Sarah brought up the value shift and the value system. And that's really important, and so as my values have shifted, and as I've, died and lived and gone through all these incarnations, I've just learned a lot. And I'm completely not the same person that I was any of those times. Cause I feel like I've died maybe about 30 times. You know what I'm saying? Side swoop is here now. Glasses and side swoop is here now. Side swoop and glasses was not here before. So, and right now, I'm also in a process where, I just died. And so I'm in a newness that I've never been. I'm in a place I've never been before. And so I think that's what I have to offer, around specifics and logistics. I feel like I've always been very blessed to be in a position where I've always walked in alignment with my destiny, and I've been able to hear, like I've been able to listen to spirit. I've been able to listen to my ancestors. I've been able to listen to the grass and the trees and the ocean and get the messages of where I needed to be doing. And sometimes those messages are so hard to receive. Like sometimes it's not like, okay, you get the prize. It's like, and now you are going to lose, and what the losing means, right? Because I think part of one of the parts of my work that has been most interesting to me has been discovering myself as a nobody, and not like, oh, she ain't nobody. Because if you look at the dance world, I'm really not nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like Adia, she ain't nobody, but I am someone that knows things, like KNOW. I know things because I've been seen as like, oh, she ain't nobody, but I'm still here and I still do the things and I'm still on the panels and we're doing it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Times as many times as you can imagine. You've answered the question. I think you both have. Wow, you brought me to so many different places when both of you were speaking. Mike, I think that there's also really funny ways that that I didn't even realize that we are also connected. In Medford right now, and all of your many interests and the things that you do, like the multiple mediums you work with. Same, interesting. Wow. Adia, the things you're saying are making me think of. There's work by Maria Bauman that I immediately thought of, dying and dying and dying. All of the deaths that we experience under capitalism in a crumbling society, in the midst of a pandemic that is ongoing and is not ended, in the midst of all of the challenges of working in the field that we're in, and also sometimes being like, maybe I'll quit tomorrow.
Like after every show, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. This is it. I'm done. But I'm not done, because this is like, my company, Ashe Dance Theater Collective. I feel like it's the spirit that I serve. Like I married this spiritual energy, and like I keep on trying to be like, I'm done with you. We breaking up. But then like, no, girl, it's me and you for life, because this was before you and it was after you. And once I think that I had this moment where I was like, I just had like my 2 children. I was just at the house and I was like, I just worked so hard on my career. I just was getting all the things. And now I got these 2 babies and I can't leave the house and all this. And I called Mama Nia Love to be like, I'm gonna audition for grad school. Can you like meet with me and I'll get some space? And she was like, what do you need space for? Like, you somebody's mama, like there's no dance over there. And then you have everything else over here. She's like, your whole life has always been dance. There's no like dance and then the thing. But she's like, now you dance when you get up in the morning and you turn on the hot water. You turn on the the bathtub for the babies. You cleaning the diapers. She's like, that's the dance. So we're not going to rent space. That just doesn't make any sense because we don't have the money to do it. And we're mothers and we dance all day long. And when she said that to me, no other dancer, no other somebody that is so accomplished and achieved and that I respected, no one had ever spoken to me like that. Because when you have children in the dance field, once again, you're dead because, oh yeah, she had babies, So that I just wanted to share that, that it's not separating life from dance, because the whole point of why dance was to heal people. There's people that are not dancers, like our aunties and uncles dance. You know what I'm saying? And so I that's when it went from like, I have to produce work on stage into I have to produce life. Like I create dance. Those are my first children. Before I made humans, those were my first children. So I'm still raising those children. It doesn't just like, they saw it, it's over, it's done, move to the next thing. Like, that's not sensical in my value system.
Yeah. I also too, it's like most of the time we're thinking about our careers as our life, and it's, all of it, you have this permission to separate yourself from the career and just like really live your soulfulness and just like be be who you want to be and like find those different things to live off of, because you know, I feel like sometimes your career takes over everything and it just becomes like, and those deaths don't have to necessarily be a bad thing. I feel like that departure and that pull away from something is really your rebirth to something else. And that way it finds its full circle. And I think that's what a career needs to do, is to really find itself again in order to feel rejuvenated and just to feel hopeful with what you're doing and what you want to do. Because there's so many things I would love to do at this point with, you know, with everything in life. It's just, you know, we have to take care of, you know, the people and the company and the stuff we have to do. These are like our kids. But at the same time, it's like you have to find your own soulfulness in order to return to them, and in order to give them that big hug and like to find that love again.
So many beautiful things are being said. Thank you for saying that, Mike. Death does not mean bad. Death does not equal a bad thing. What has to die is a question that I've written down in the corner of multiple notebooks lately. It's come up in multiple conversations and it's coming up again now. It's a sign. What needs to go? Sometimes something's gotta go. Sometimes something needs to decompose so that it can fertilize whatever's gotta come next. Sometimes something has to go because it just needs to go. And that's the end. And that's it. Sometimes that chapter is over and there's something else that comes next. I think remembering that there is a richness in sort of allowing that process to be and not trying to fight it, which is something that I'm still actively learning as someone who is still figuring out the best way to navigate life and loving and also hating the city at times. So all of the things you're both saying about like letting things be what they are, really. And also this life, and what I heard was life is a dance. And sometimes that dance is not cute. Sometimes that dance is like, life is a dance as a sentence can sound like some kind of heaven or some kind of hell. So I want to also just appreciate like the breadth of like, there is a lot of possibilities in acknowledging that it's not easy. No, it's not for everybody. Maybe you'll start and maybe you won't continue doing this stuff. Maybe you'll find it when you didn't expect to and start doing it completely different than how you expected. And I want to actually be, I want to maybe take the next minutes we have remaining to also be specific a little bit, because you both have a lot of experiences that I think I would love to, and everyone would love to hear more about. Adia talking about being a parent and navigating. Am I going to keep doing this stuff?
I mean, everything. Like even when you're a dancer in New York, you can't just be a dancer. Like I write all the music for, like I score all the music. If it's not traditional music, I either arrange the traditional music or I score the entire, the ballets that I make. And so I wasn't doing that. Ain't nobody thought they was coming to New York to write no music and create scores for the dance. I was just trying to like point my foot and get, do the Horton and the Dunham and the Graham. Like I wasn't trying to do all that. But in order to survive, I had to sing. I had to be like, because I had things I wanted to say and there was music, but it wasn't doing it in the way I needed to. So that's something that I feel like became a really big deal, and something that became a signature for me is people's like, she does these little sing-songy things and then it's all this like Tetris dance. And then they start to do all this stuff and the costume, like it turned into this world. But to me, it was like when I was 14, in like middle school, like high school, and we were just making up dances on the playground. I just, in 90s hip hop, it just followed me through the folklore and contemporary dance. And so I feel like from the moments I opened my mouth to sing and I wasn't a singer, from the moment I wrote choreo poems and I wasn't no writer, right? The moment I decided I was going to be somebody's mama and I was a super boy girl, as they call me in Africa, you know, like I didn't know, I wasn't super maternal, like, oh, the child. I was like, how does it work? I need to go to class. Like, who's going to hold oh, I'm the mama. I can't give it back. So, you know, I think that, you know, one thing about what you were saying before, Amara Tabor Smith taught me, like when I was, you know, an urban bush woman apprentice, she said, when you fall, you got to fall all the way down. So you can't halfway fall. When you have the rejection letters, you have the heartbreaks that come along with being here, you can't halfway fall, because then you keep on halfway getting up, you keep on halfway getting up, right? And so Spirit was telling me to say that, right? Sorry, I talk a lot.
That's so good. Yeah, I had a kind of a small death last year, and it was weird because something happened in one day and then something else happened like the second half of the day, and then I'm taking this job in Oklahoma, where I'm living right now. I live in Oklahoma and teaching at University of Central Oklahoma and teaching as a artist in residency for the year, and like. I came to a point where I felt like I needed to give out to somebody in order to receive back, because there's a lot of points where I feel like as I was teaching this next generation of, you know, about the real world or even just life in New York, I hear myself speaking about that, and I try to really try to incorporate that for myself. That way, when I return or even start going back to the company, I feel like I have this new sense of self about how I need to listen to myself even more, because sometimes we're creating for the mass, right? And I feel like sometimes we forget how to create for ourselves and like kind of feed our souls, and like and sometimes you really have to return to how to energize yourself, feed yourself that energy, and allow yourself to compromise certain things that you need certain things in order to give that out, to bring it out into the world again. And so like teaching at the university has been really like helpful for me to reassess how I even how I speak to kids these days. It's such a different world, and so it's really helped me like kind of assess how to move forward based off of looking to the past and so forth. And so it's been really neat.
That's Sankofa. That's looking back to inform the pathway forward, which is a big part of my practice in art, in life, and everything. Yes, I think that hearing about what I'm hearing is the many chapters that exist and can teach you so much, like, and also this sense of, I think that the word return, I've been trying to not use it because it's been scary to talk about returning in the midst of everything that has happened in the last 2 years. The idea that, personally having a realization, like the way I was working before the pandemic was not sustainable, and I knew it, and I know it now. Hearing both of you speak about the many ways that sometimes you're just like, I'm gonna go do this thing over here now. I feel very affirmed, and that some of the other speakers are in the chat saying the same thing. There's something about being honest with yourself, and the question that I'm not asking for an answer to, that this would also be a whole nother panel discussion. But I just want to put out that a question that came to me is on my heart now. Hearing both of you, the question of who is this for? Like, who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this to satisfy somebody else? To satisfy that grant, like that institution that's going to give me that grant that's going to make everything work, even if it's only for 6 months, even if it's only for the next few weeks. Who am I doing this for? And I think that's a question that I didn't realize I needed to ask until I talked to people who have been doing this for a long time. And I still need the reminder on a regular basis. So thank you both for that reminder.
But that, you know, that this like the hustle puzzle of the survival masquerade is real. And that's not to be confused with the dance medicine that our ancestors have passed on to us and that connects us all in this lineage of dance, right? So if you know the hustle puzzle of the survival masquerade is here, and you know the medicine of what we do is here, then it really is, this whole split between the two is a very like Western American concept of like, you have either this or this, right? Everything has duality and like spectrum and range and all this other stuff. So like, you know, it's not is this, the hustle puzzle is real, and it can confuse you and make it think that that's the thing. Right. But you have to have the underground for the survival masquerade to exist. Right. So the people with the endowments and the big this and that, like if they don't exist, then we can't be free and dancing in the leaves and trees and eating the berries and just bringing our fairy magic to the world. Right. And then maybe one day we'll get encapsulated into this thing, and then there'll be more fairy magic over here. But it's cyclical. Right. And so, yes. Real talk, the hustle puzzle is a thing.
Sure is.
The hustle puzzle. I'm over here making notes.
I'm from the Bay, so you know, we got music. Hyphy music ain't just dancing. So, you know, I'm a child of hip hop and hyphy music, you know, rest in peace, Mac Dre.
Wow. I am so very grateful for all of the like the lots of gems, lots of nuggets that I'm gonna like keep with me. I wonder if there are any things that are top of mind for either of you with our last couple of minutes. You said a lot of wonderful and interesting things. Is there anything that you think bears repeating, or anything that you think actually I have the end of that thought? Let me share it right now.
If you're going to make a mistake, make a big one.
I think I said what was worth saying without trying to just like do the performance of let me throw this thing in to be, you know, I think I said it just to be, yeah, you got to fall all the way down.
Yeah, you have to.
You got to lean on your community. Like you cannot do it by yourself. Like,
yeah, there's people behind you all the time.
That's right.
You got to remember that.
And cycles and expiration dates and death is freedom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like everything can't stay in the refrigerator forever. Like our lives as our ancestors are longer than our lives as human beings. So why do we place more human, more value on the thing that's like the product as opposed to like the intangible part where it's just floating around? And, believe in things you can't see, That's what all of us do. That's our whole field, is we believe in things we cannot see, and we capture it in our body like fireflies in the jar, and you see it, and then when it's over, it goes. And when it's time for us to go, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's hurt, but like, just believe in the next thing you can't see.
Agreed.
We could do this all day.
Yeah.
That is not an option. So thank you both very, very much for all of this, and thank you for all the things that you shared. So very grateful. And
thank you so much.
Thank you. And I wish that all of these conversations just keep on going. But I will stop us here, and I will ask that our next group, our last two come onto the camera. So we have our last pairing. I'm very, very excited, as I have been all afternoon, to talk with our last pair, we have Nikki, and I'm sorry if I'm saying your last name incorrectly, Nikki Perezo. Wonderful. And we also have Annie B Parson. I want to just start by acknowledging that I admire everyone who's been in these conversations, and I am so grateful that I get to be in a conversation with the two of you. I'm excited to hear all the things you have to say, and I will ask you both to, as Adia is mentioning, breathe and introduce yourselves, please.
Nikki?
Oh, Annie B, you go.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Annie B Parson. I am a choreographer. I am presently Zooming from the ancient homeland and traditional territory of the Lenape people, and I pay respect to their past and present communities. I am a white woman with brownish gray hair, dark framed glasses. I am wearing, what am I wearing? A black blouse, and I have a fuzzy background with a red ball. I can see a magic red ball in the background. Nikki?
Yes, I'm Nikki Perrizo, and I thank you, Annie B. I first wanted to thank all at Dance NYC who have been so helpful throughout the preparation process leading up to this moment in this session. I am a gay, queer, cisgendered, Asian American artist of Filipino ancestry and heritage. I identify as he, him, his. I was born and raised and live in New York City, the land of the Munsee Lenape, otherwise known as Lenapehoking, on the island of Manhattan, or as we know it, Manhattan. I've been an actor, dancer, performer for the past 4 decades. I'm very honored today to be asked to engage in conversation with Annie B Parson, who is a formidable artist in the dance field. Oh, and I want to, oh yes, us old people, we're not used to this yet, but I'm wearing a flower patterned shirt with a black jacket. I am a guest in my friend Yoshiko Chuma's home, and there are some lovely paintings. I hope they're not too distracting, but there is one in the center, a black and white photo you might see of the great performance artist Ethel Eichelberger. I believe that photo was taken by Donna Ann McAdams. Oh, and I would love to acknowledge and invoke some mentor teachers that have passed away during this pandemic, and I feel their loss very deeply because they helped to bring me here to sitting in front of you today. And they are Robbie McCauley, Pablo Vela, and most recently, the great vocal coach and teacher, Barbara Mayer Gustern. I would like to acknowledge all the strong women in my life. That's a big deal. We might talk about that. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. How do we start our conversation?
Ashe, and thank you for calling all of those names and all of those spirits, those people into the room, Nikki. Thank you both for being here. I I am in awe of everyone that has been in these conversations. I would love to begin your conversation with just knowing that when we got to have a short chat before, we talked about a number of things, including the downtown community, and we talked about, or you two talked about working in New York City in the 80s. There's a lot of knowledge between the two of you in this room, and I want to honor that and say thank you for sharing whatever you will share. So can we start there? What was it like to be working at that time? And are there big things that you can see as like big changes maybe, or things that you'd like to call attention to between then and now?
Well, maybe I should start. I began as a performer, and I will always be a performer. But 1980s, oh my gosh. I think we were all very young, very, very young. And there was so much possibility in the air. We didn't have any money. Our rents for our apartments were relatively low. And the city, especially downtown, both the East Village and the West and Tribeca were at our disposal. And there were great artists that we could work with and maybe attach ourselves to. Two of those for me were Meredith Monk and an actor playwright named Jeff Weiss, and then later Yoshiko Chuma. But yes, and we it was a collaboration was a very tenuous word, because we did contribute work, especially to dear Meredith, but the director, the director was the last word and had all the say. And so we learned, and I'm saying this is a good thing, we learned to do as we were told. And because we were in the presence of great masters. And maybe I'll just leave it at that for now, and turn it over to Annie.
Thanks, Nikki. Yeah, I mean, I'm really, Maya, we're always afraid of being nostalgic. And so I would contextualize my comments in that fear of nostalgia, because it is a very, very different dance world right now. And so the things I remember about the 80s, I didn't really get my work produced until 1990, except at Movement Research. But I remember that the community of dancers, the way we hung out was in class, and class was everything. And I think the yoga mat was the end of that. And so sometimes I see a yoga mat in my mind as a way to determine space. And so before the yoga mat, we were going across the floor. And I think that choreographers in downtown dance, and it was, and I think it still is, a very, very small community of people, were very strong dancers, very strong, amazing. And we went, the choreographers I knew went to ballet class, they went to Afro-Haitian class, they went to modern dance class, Limon, everything. And we saw each other there, and then we hung out afterwards. So that's how I remember the way it was sort of set up. And of course, now that's very different. And then secondly, I think that we saw training as sort of a doorway into our work. And maybe that's different, I don't really know. And the choreographer was the person who dragged everyone into a room and said, I have something to make, will you come? And that was, I don't know if that's different now either. I think that that's where the wheat and the chaff sort of separated. Was there was someone with an idea and they would get a studio, and we would, and this really ages it, we would give them tokens, because that's what we used to get in the subway in order to be in the room, because as Nikki said, no one had any money, but rent was incredibly cheap. Like my rent was $350. Not that it was nice, but it was affordable. And I did have many, many jobs to support that, but I definitely could go to class during the day. So somehow that all worked. And I know that's very hard now. And then other things that are very, very different is that people saw tons of work, and there was tons of work to see. So I saw Nikki perform a lot, and I saw everybody perform all the time, and that was our school. And it was also a way of, okay, seeing each other in the lobbies and stuff. But the social media has changed completely, and this is a completely different conversation, but it's changed completely. I feel like the way we we see ourselves, the sense of self, what is self. So I'll stop there because I think that's giant and philosophical, but I can see the difference for sure.
Yes, Annie B. I remember Lucinda Childs speaking to an audience at Dance Space Project, and the theme was Judson Church, if anyone still remembers Judson Church, of the 1960s through the early 70s. And Lucinda very clearly stated, we went to ballet class in the mornings.
We did, but we hid it.
And in the evenings, we brought our mattresses to the Judson Church, because they had a piece where everyone, rolled around and danced on mattresses. And, but it was interesting because, what do I want to say? I wanted to speak something to where we're at this particular time, which I see now as an older person who's turned a particular age. I find this is a time of transition and transformation, and a search for language, a language which really articulates where we're at. And so I do appreciate all the namings and the namings of our pronouns. I think that's important. But then how do we make necessary shifts in our thinking and our actual experience? I think our experience should always be alive and ongoing, and otherwise we get stuck. So that's what I'm learning as an older person, and what the importance of self-care and mental health and rest, they are important. And as I was listening to Karen Finley in the keynote last night, and she says, yes, there's so much we can handle. I love that she admitted that. There's so much we can handle at any given time, but it is important to rediscover for ourselves what is important, what is essential, what is it that we get passionate about? What do we get passionate about? And part of that is acknowledging our history and our legacy. And I just want to speak again briefly about coming from a generation of assimilation. My parents said, be an American, do what they tell you, be whiter than white. So, and I haven't, in the 80s, coming up in the 80s, I didn't think about that much, because we were all part of the same mix of and creativity. But lately, this has become very important and essential to think about, where that, you know, art making at a certain time came from a position of being middle class privilege. So I don't know what it is today with NYU skyrocketing tuition costs, and but we have to find or rediscover, as again Karen Finley said last night, rediscover joy and danger and risk. So what does that mean in our artistic, creative lives? How do we go on? And my question, Annie B, is how do I make the next 20 years of my life mean something?
Isn't that always the question, Nikki?
Yeah, yes, you're right. And then some of us have less time than others, but to answer the question. But we continue to try to do that.
I think the very act of asking that question, Nikki, is the practice. Keeping that question alive, whether you're, you know, in a emerging, as we're like calling it, and always have tried to resist that too. Or we talked about that, Maya, before. But yeah, that's the practice, is answering that question and keeping that question alive.
Absolutely.
And that has to do with being alive to all the questions that are being asked now. I mean, one of the things that struck me as I was listening to the panelists before us, the first panelists, the first two, Sarah and I can't remember their names, but the first two panelists was that Carmen, and we indefinitely, when we started, we left our tragedies, our griefs, and our sufferings outside the dance studio. That is, I don't know if you agree, Nikki, but that is definitely my memory. And when we walked in the studio, if our suffering and our grief, which we all had, because I worked with dancers for decades, if it was happening, very on fire in the moment of rehearsal, it came through the forms of dance itself. They weren't conversations. I'm the last person to judge if that's a better or worse for dance. For human beings, it's a worse, I believe. But it was different. I will mark that.
Well, I'd like to add that I think there was a kind of change or transformation, especially in theater and in some dance practices, with the onset of AIDS in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. And then there was a time that playwrights then began to write about it and bring it to the public's attention. So maybe I'm talking about something slightly different here, but yes. But no, you're right. We did try to leave our personal psychologies and mental health issues outside the studio door.
Yes.
And once we entered into the studio, took off our shoes and socks and entered into rehearsal, that was what it was about, the work. And yes, and of course, Meredith's work was more abstract than others, although she did really, as she also grew older, bring in very specific themes of loss and grief and mourning, MOURNING, and remembrance of those who had passed.
She lost her partner in
That is
the
correct.
90s. I believe I had her as a teacher.
Oh, Mika Van Hook.
Mika Van Hook, brilliant teacher.
What a brilliant woman she was.
Right. And that must have been in the 90s.
Yes. But I think there's some cliche about healers, that the healer cannot heal themselves. So I think that's what happened when Mika got ill and passed away, and we miss her dearly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Maya, I wouldn't judge the difference because it's too soon to know, but it's different.
Thank you both for all the things you said. Yes. Wow. Lots of things, but I'm going to try to make a couple of connections and then maybe hone in. Because there's, I think, maybe one more question I'd love to finish with. So you said so many things and called many people into the room, the memories and the experiences you've had with all of these different amazing artists, master teachers, the naming of, and I think Nikki, you said this in a different way than I'm saying it now, but the naming of things is very important. The naming of history, the naming of legacy, the naming of where you've been so that you can know where you're going. It's something that's come up in another panel so far, another conversation already. Naming so that shifts can happen, so that being grounded in where you are right now can be more possible. Naming so that you can be more clear on what your sense of who you are and what you're doing actually makes sense. Annie, you said the sense of self has shifted a lot. That's something that you've especially noticed, especially with how we engage with each other through social media, and how my experience is that people are working too much to be able to hang out with each other after class. People are spending a lot more time on social media, both to share what they don't have the time with because they're working so much to see other people, and also to just to connect with each other. So it is definitely different. So I think there's a lot of things, and that's just one not small, but one way to pinpoint like different.
I mean, absolutely, but I was more referring to the framing of the self.
Yes.
And how that affects your work.
And I think that all ties into it. Because as you both have really said, everything is connected. All of the things you're experiencing that are not the steps that you're learning from the choreographer, everything that you bring into the room is a part of it. It is actually all very much so connected. And I think that we are talking about that more. That's my experience of working and living here, working with other people. I would love to sort of grab onto one little thread that came up that Nikki actually mentioned from the keynote of rediscovering danger and rediscovering all kinds of things, but that in particular I think is really interesting. I would love to maybe just end with this one thought that came up in our conversations with both of you about the word revitalizing. I kind of want to just throw that word out and then see how you would like to respond with our last 2 minutes. That word came up in terms of thinking about how we honor the legacy and the powerful work and history that exists within people's careers when you've been working for as long as both of you have. I think there's a lot that you've come to know, that the word revitalizing I'm using to specifically name that we don't always take time to acknowledge. Like, you've been working for quite a while, and you also are continuing to do all kinds of things and continuing to experiment and continuing to always becoming is a word, words that I've heard from multiple other artists. So if anything you'd like to say in response to that.
Yes, always becoming. That's a really great verb. It's an active verb. I don't know how this directly connects, but I think it's so important in this always becoming that dance has, for the most part, been an oral history before it became notated, and it's up to us as I don't mean to put this on you, Annie B, but I've been thinking about this lately, about owning that that very intimidating word called elder. Oh my gosh. But I think it's a responsibility of elders to impart the knowledge, impart the blood flow, impart the techniques, the discipline, the history of where we came from. Otherwise, it just becomes a written text in a book. And I think that's so important. I know as a curator, I haven't spoken about what that means to me. Maybe I should now. Curating what we think of it as at La Mama, myself and Nia Yu, who's the artistic director, we use the stem of the word curate, which is to cure. Curating is not choosing this artist over that artist, or making a program that means something. It's something curative for the artist to take hold of, to be safe with as they create their work. So that's how I feel when I talk to younger artists and these days, and curate them into our programming. And we try to give residencies now every year, at least 10 to 12 residencies for artists to do whatever they want, whatever they're thinking of, whatever they're dreaming about. And as Mia and I continue to say, from which comes from our founder, Ellen Stewart, we jump off the cliff with you. Whatever it is that you want to do. As Ellen Stewart used to say, I don't care what it is you want to do, baby, but you go ahead and go into that rehearsal room and you do it. Okay. That's my admonition for this afternoon.
Maybe if you have a final thing to say before we close, please.
Well, that was so wonderful, Nikki. I know we're out of time, so I will just say that dance has become, in the same way that, or maybe echoing that, there's a lot less opportunities, I feel like, for young choreographers. It really feels like than when in the 80s, even and the 90s, but there's a lot more places for people to put their dances, way more. And it's a less insular world for sure. So I've enjoyed spreading my compositional ideas out into other realms of dance beside what used to be the 3 or 4 theaters that were interested in experimentation. Now that's a much broader field. At the same time, this will never change. You will always reckon with the ephemerality of dance. I guess I'll leave it at that's something that all choreographers will be playing with in different ways, is ephemerality.
Yes, and mortality. Yeah.
Thank you both so much. We went to many different places in this conversation, and there are many more. But this is not necessarily the end. This is just a moment that we've got to share together. So thank you so very much for all the wisdom and all the sharing that you've done. That is the this is the close of this moment in this section in the symposium, and I will go ahead and pass it back to Kyle. Thank you both again.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Annie B.
Hello, thank you everyone so much, to the speakers and to those producing this this conversation. Thank you very much. I want to give a special shout out to our folks at Sign Nexus, Elisa Bescher and Emilio Garcia, and Janice Young from Viscardi Center doing closed captioning. I hope that you were able to take away some transformative ideas and considerations. And at this point, we are going to head over to the session follow-up chat in the community section to take a few questions and wrap up the conversation. So what's next at this point? You can also continue to experience the rest of our symposium. Visit our sponsors in the exhibitor hall, create virtual meetups and online conversations at our community board, or just take some time away from the screen and rest. You can explore more concepts within life cycles, livelihoods, and legacies. We have 3 more daytime sessions coming up, all held at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Before that, at this time, you can take your lunch and head over to the exhibitor hall for the virtual expo showcase. We also have another virtual expo showcase at 5 p.m. Eastern Time at the exhibitor hall. Tonight's program includes a pivotal keynote conversation entitled Disabled Artists and a History of Dance, Activism, and Collective Care, an address by Corbett O'Toole about the evolution of dance, activism, and an ethos of collective care in the United States. What can dance artists today learn from investigating this rich history? The presentation will be followed by a response session with Dance NYC Disability Dance Artistry Residency Artists, curated with X. I wish you a very happy day, enjoy your lunch, and enjoy this afternoon. Bye.
Thank you for joining today's session. A special thanks to our funders, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, the Howard Gilman Foundation, New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, New York State Council on the Arts, and the National Endowment for the Arts. A special thanks to our lead corporate sponsor, Con Edison, and our lead dance advocate, Jody Gottfried Arnold. Subsidies for the education and dance worker ticket tiers are made possible by the Arnold Foundation. A special thanks to our leader, host, and partner level sponsors, 92nd Street Y, Harkness Dance Center, Dance Education Library, Cataliote Law, Full Out Creative, Gibney Dance Center, Kumbay Center for African and Diaspora Dance, the Actors Fund, Ballet Hispanico, Fit for Dance, Chen Dance Company, NDI Collaborative for Teaching and Learning, New York Live Arts, and Tom O'Connor Consulting Group. And last, but certainly not least, a special thanks to our Justice, Equity, and Inclusion partners, Art Beyond Sight, Art Space Sanctuary, Asian American Arts Alliance, Center for Traditional Music and Dance, the International Association of Blacks in Dance, Lotus Music and Dance, Museum Arts and Culture Access Consortium, National Association of Latino Arts and Culture, New York Foundation for the Arts, and Women of Color in the Arts. Up next, please feel free to rest, reflect, and eat a nourishing lunch. You may also check out our virtual expo in the exhibitor hall at this time. At 2:30, we begin our late afternoon sessions, and at 4:15, we gather in our daily debrief. At 5 o'clock, we revisit the exhibitor hall for more booth activity at our virtual expo showcase. And at 6 o'clock, we gather for a keynote presentation. Stay connected with us by posting your takeaways on social media using the hashtags DanceSimp, DanceNYC 2022, and DanceSimp 2022. On Instagram at dance.nyc, on Twitter at dance.nyc, and on Facebook at dance/NYC. Some features not to miss. Build your agenda of sessions. Connect with other attendees. Join community conversations. Visit the exhibitor hall. Don't forget to check out the 2022 Symposium digital program book. How are we doing? Did you like a session? Use the like feature on your favorite session. Got feedback for us? Take the post-event survey after March 19th and tell us how we did. Need help? Email us at customerservice@dance.nyc. A special thanks to our broadcast streaming partners at Full Out Creative. Thanks for joining. Keep in touch at dance.nyc.